I was 6 years old when I first realized something was wrong with the way my father treated my mother. We lived in Edo State at the time, in a large railway quarter, at least bigger than what most other stations had. It was the kind of house government workers were given. My father was a train driver, a respected job, at least on the outside. He wore his navy blue uniform with pride, and when he walked through the streets, people greeted him with admiration. Baba Railway, they called him. But at home, he was someone else entirely. My mother, Grace, was just 20 years old when she got involved with my father, who was 36 at the time. They met in Ondo. She was living with her older sister and helping out in her small food shop. My father had just been transferred to the area and passed by often. I imagine he must have charmed her, or maybe she didn't really have a choice. In those days, when an older man with a stable job showed interest, everyone said it was a blessing. No one ever asked the girl how she felt. They didn't exactly marry. No, let me correct that. They got together because I only found out recently that no bride price was ever paid. I think she got pregnant, and that led to them becoming husband and wife. She moved with him to Edo shortly after. So, yes, I promise to be non judgmental, and I'll try. But honestly, parents need to do better, both the women and the men. My name is Jessica. I'm 24 years old, the second daughter of three children, and I just want to share how my father ran and ruined his union with my mother. I promise not to waste your time, but I need to say a few things real quick. My earliest memory of my mother is her laughter, soft, full, and so pure. But by the time I was 6, maybe 7, that laughter had become rare in our home. What I heard more often was silence, a heavy silence, the kind that wraps around a woman's spirit like rope, not tight enough to kill her, but just enough to stop her from living. My father controlled everything, even when he wasn't physically around. What we ate, and often it wasn't enough. Where we went, who my mother could talk to, even what time we could step outside. He wouldn't let her work or do any business. Sometimes he hit us, but he hit my mom more, especially when she tried to stand up for us. His words, his words and sharp insults, they cut deeper than any belt ever could. I remember once my mother had started selling fried ground nuts in front of the house. It was when my dad had taken a short transfer to another town and the money he sent home for the month could barely feed us for a week. So Mama started the ground nut business and even delivered to nearby schools. She was trying to make extra money to buy clothes for us, secondhand ones from the market, and maybe even for herself. Honestly, during that short period, the house began to feel like a home. There was warmth, laughter, and a little sense of security. But it didn't last. The day my father came home and saw her selling, he poured sand into the entire tray, right in front of our neighbors, and shouted, "You want to be a market woman? Not in my house." I remember hiding under the kitchen table that day, holding my little brother close, too scared to even cry. My mother just stood there, silent. That was about the fifth business she had tried to venture into. She quietly picked up the tray, turned around, and walked back inside. That was the kind of woman she was. She was always quiet. I never really understood why. Maybe she had nowhere else to turn, but honestly, at that time, it made me angry with her too. I felt she was too passive, too soft. I was 14 years old when I finally stood up to my father. It happened the day he slapped her, simply because she was eating at the dining table while he had a guest. That guest, by the way, was Mr. Bernard, a man who once tried to molest me. We were three children, two girls and our younger brother, who happened to be autistic. My older sister, Anna, was like Mama, quiet, always quiet. But not me. I was always the one trying to protect Mama, always speaking up. I don't know where I found the strength from. I observed, listened, and remembered everything. My younger brother, John, was just a toddler at the time, the baby of the house, despite everything, the poverty, the violence, the humiliation. My mother never left. she stayed. Every single day, for 26 years. At some point, I think my father began to notice that Mama was slowly gaining strength again. Maybe it was the neighbors, especially Auntie Deborah. She was always encouraging Mama to go back to school. Mama was about 35 then. Auntie Deborah even secured an admission letter for her to study nursing. That's when my dad decided we had to move to Ibadan. No notice, no discussion, no choice. He uprooted us overnight. That was his way of maintaining control. Even in Ibadan, when Mama's small tailoring business began attracting more customers, he resented her for it. He hated that she was becoming independent. He told her, "A good wife doesn't compete with her husband. A good wife must never outshine her man." And Mama, she just nodded and kept sewing. Some nights I'd wake up and hear her crying quietly, not sobbing, just leaking pain through her eyes, like a pipe dripping in a forgotten corner. One night I told her to leave him. She looked at me in shock, as if I had just said something evil. Then, as usual, she changed the story, made it about herself, blamed herself for not doing enough. She didn't want me to see her pain, but I did. And it broke me. The most painful part? She never asked for pity, not once. She smiled when we brought home good grades. She danced at our birthdays. She prayed for us like her life depended on it. And maybe it did. We grew up in that house, watching her shrink and grow, suffer, and rise. But everything began to shift when Hannah, our first daughter, got into Obafemi Awolowo University. My father didn't want her to go. He insisted she should get a job at the train station, just like his father had done for him. That was the thing with many men of his generation. They believed children should follow a pattern, not chase dreams. I'm not saying the path is bad, but if a child wants more, why stop them? Hannah wanted more and fought to get it. She met someone at school, a Scottish student doing volunteer work at the Arts and Museum Center. He was helping replicate some of the artworks repatriated to Nigeria. His name was Liam. They started off as friends, then more than friends. Eventually, Anna left for Scotland after her NYSC. We all thought it was temporary, but it wasn't. She did her master's there. Liam returned and married her. Then one day, a phone call came. "She's having twins," Anna said excitedly. "Mama, I want you to come and stay with me. I need help." That invitation changed everything. Mama had never traveled outside Nigeria, never even been on a plane. Of course, my father said no. He wanted Auntie Fino, Mama's younger sister, to go instead. Imagine that. That was the day I stood up to him again. "Daddy, this is not happening," I said. "She needs to go. Anna needs help. But more than that, Mama needs to breathe." I was really angry. I told Mama, "If you turn this down, I'll disown you." I don't even know what I was thinking, but I had to do something. Just 2 weeks before, I'd witnessed yet another beating. I was done being quiet. So she got her passport, packed her best wrappers, and for the first time in a very, very long time, I saw something new in her eyes. Hope, freedom, space. I promised her I'd take care of John. I begged her not to worry about us. Just this once, just go. What she didn't know, what none of us knew, was that love, real love, was waiting for her on the other side of that flight. When Mama boarded that plane to Scotland, it felt like a part of our pain finally exhaled. She hugged me before she left and whispered, "Take care of your brother. You're the strongest girl I know." I wanted to cry, but I smiled instead. The day she arrived in Edinburgh, Anna called. "She's here. She's fine. You should have seen her at the airport, walking like a queen who just won a battle." 3 days later, Anna gave birth to twin boys. The house became lively, and Mama stepped into it like she'd always belonged. The plan was for her to stay just a few weeks, but everything changed once she experienced that quiet, calm world. A world where no one yelled at her. No one told her she was too loud, too soft, too much, or not enough. Summer looked so good on my beautiful mother. She video called us every other day. "We're fine, Mama," I would tell her. She'd always ask, "Has your father given you money?" And I'd say yes. I made sure to collect that weekly housekeeping allowance from him without delay. My younger brother had a dietary plan, so I used that to my advantage. I didn't give my dad the chance to complain because I knew he had the money. Yes, he had another family, but that's not important here. Sometimes he would speak with Mama, but only when forced to. He'd frown and ask, "What are you wearing?" Then hand the phone back to me. But Mama was happy, and that was all that mattered. She took over Anna's home like she'd lived there her whole life. She cooked, cleaned, sang Igbo lullabies to the babies, and quickly learned to shop in pounds. Anna said she'd often ask, "What's the Naira version of this one?" And then Mama met a friend. It started with small conversations at a local store with a soft-spoken man named Mr. Drew. He lived just 2 houses away, a widower, half Nigerian, half British, what people at home might call half caste. His father was Nigerian, his mother British. Born and raised in the UK, but you could still see the Nigerian in him the moment he smiled. Anna said his wife had died of cancer 5 years ago. They had one daughter, now in college. Since then, he mostly kept to himself. Anna and her husband met him on an election day and later paid a condolence visit when his wife passed. They described him as a respectful, quiet man, and guess what? He was also a train operator, just like my father, though I think they call it metro operator or train engineer over there. The first time Mama and Mr. Drew spoke, he came to drop off a package that was wrongly delivered to his house. Mama and Anna had just returned from a hospital visit with the babies. Drew, being naturally chatty, started a conversation. They talked about Nigerian food, about culture. He had visited Lagos a few times. That day, they ended up laughing about egusi soup and plantain chips. Later that evening, Mama told Anna, "Men here are so respectful." Anna said she had never seen her mother's eyes light up that way. Mama once whispered to her, "See, your husband washes his plate." In fact, the first time Mama saw Anna's husband doing laundry, she was genuinely scared she thought they had fought. I later explained to her that marriage isn't a military structure. It's a partnership where both sides deserve love and respect. Another day, Drew returned her scarf. It had fallen from the stroller when she was pushing the twins around. That day, they spoke for even longer. After that, their paths kept crossing. Evening strolls became routine. Mama would take the twins to the park. Drew would walk his dog. They became friends, then companions, buddies. One day, Mama told Anna, "He said I can still go to school. Is that true at 48?" Anna asked me, and I said, "Yes, Mama, you're smart. You can do anything you put your mind to." Mama lit up like a candle. "He said I'm very smart," she told Anna. Anna then explained that since Mama had a secondary school certificate, there were short courses she could take. She could even major in something she loved and earn a certificate. Then everything changed. Mama started dressing up again. Looking good, glowing. Mama Grace, the same woman who never wore anything outside a wrapper and blouse, who never let herself laugh too loud, who always sat quietly at the back of church. Now she did her hair. She wore perfume. She smiled during video call. One day, Anna sent me a picture. Mama and Mr. Drew stood side by side at a neighborhood cookout, both wearing aprons and smiling in front of a barbecue grill. And for the first time in a long time, Mama didn't look like she was surviving. She looked like she was living. I showed the picture to John, our little brother. He laughed and said, "She looks younger." And she did. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to. All I knew was that my mother, the woman who had spent most of her life being someone's prisoner, Ba'ad said was finally free. But freedom is complicated. After 4 months, Mama came back to Nigeria. She returned with so many goodies, she couldn't even carry them all at once. They'll ship the rest tomorrow, she said casually, like it was nothing. She had gone to charity shops in Scotland and picked up lots of high quality children's clothes, 3 whole boxes, to sell in our neighborhood. Businesswoman, I teased, and we both laughed. John clung to her like a baby monkey. You're 12, I beg. Must you be glued to her hip? I teased again, and the house filled with laughter. But joy didn't last long. 6 days later, my father came home. He wasn't expecting her to look like that, confident, glowing, transformed. She stepped out of the kitchen holding a full, well-prepared meal, her face lit up with a warm smile. His expression, however, changed. What are you wearing? He asked sharply. A gown, she replied gently. Silence followed. He ate slowly, his eyes cold. Mama tried to share photos of the twins. She even brought out some of the gifts from Scotland. Still, nothing. Then, glancing around the room, he muttered, I don't want anyone in this house buying those things you brought. This isn't a marketplace. Mama's voice remained calm. These are just a few things I got with the money Anna's husband gave me, she explained. I saved it to start something small for myself. If you'd prefer, I'll find somewhere else to sell them. He slapped her, and just like that, the atmosphere changed. The joy faded. The warmth left the room. Even though that slap landed, she didn't stagger. She didn't run to the bedroom and lock herself inside. She simply walked away. Calmly, she packed the clothes she had planned to sell, folded them back into their boxes, sealed each one carefully, and stacked them in a quiet corner of the living room. The next morning, she carried those boxes to the Church Women's Fellowship and gave most of them away. From that moment, I began to see her differently. She no longer explained herself when my father complained about food. She stopped hiding her perfume. She wore what she liked, with grace and without apology. 3 weeks after her return from Scotland, on a Wednesday I'll never forget, something shifted again. That morning she got dressed. Nothing flashy, just steady, deliberate movements, the kind a woman makes when she knows who she is and what she's about to do. She wore a navy blue skirt and a fitted cream blouse. Her hair was neatly packed into a bun. The soft rose perfume Anna bought for her lingered in the air. I watched as she counted some money, placed it in a brown leather purse, and tucked it into her handbag. Then she looked at me and smiled. I'll be back before evening. I didn't ask where she was going. I didn't need to. Because deep in my spirit, I knew this was different. That day, Mama went to the nursing school in town, the same one Auntie Deborah had once told her about before Daddy uprooted us from Edo. She submitted her application. She paid the registration fee. When she came back later that evening, her smile wasn't cautious anymore. It was full, bold, free. Did everything go well? I asked. She opened her handbag, pulled out a small booklet, and held it up proudly. On the cover, it read, Adult Assistant Nursing and Healthcare Program, 6-month vocational certificate. I stared at the booklet, then at her. Mama, I whispered, are you really sure? She nodded, eyes shining. If I don't start now, when will I? Over the next few weeks, Mama became someone new. She woke up earlier than everyone else, cooked breakfast, packed her bag, and went off to school like a teenager chasing her first dream. On weekends, when Daddy came around, she fell silent, not out of fear anymore, but out of strategy. He didn't notice, or maybe he just didn't care. Or maybe he finally understood. The control he once held over her was slipping through his fingers. One night, I found Mama sitting in the backyard, under the soft light of the moon. Her hands folded in her lap, her face calm. She looked at me and asked gently, Do you think it's too late? For someone like me? I smiled. No, Mama. I think it's finally your turn. She nodded slowly. My exams are next month, she said. That same week, I got my university admission letter. Things were finally looking up, for both of us. But peace never lasts long in a house ruled by control. That Friday evening, Daddy returned unannounced. He was furious. That school, let me not see you there again, he barked. Nursing? Of all things? I've had enough, and I won't say it again. Mama didn't reply. Not yes, sir. Not no, sir. But this time, that weekend, he didn't leave for the station. He stayed, waited. And on Monday morning, Mama got up, bathed, dressed, packed her books like usual. When she walked into the living room, he was already standing by the door, arms folded, waiting. He tried to block her path, tried to do what he had always done, intimidate her with his voice or his fists. But Mama didn't flinch. She looked him in the eye. Then she gently reached out and held his wrist. Not to fight, not to beg, but to stop him. And in the calmest voice I'd ever heard her use, she said, I've given you 26 years of yes, sir. 26 years of silence. 26 years of kneeling and asking for permission to breathe. Not today. Today, I choose me. And with that, she walked past him and out the door. When Mama came back home, her belongings were already outside. 2 worn-out travel bags and a polythene bag of kitchen items, stacked like garbage by the doorstep. I don't want to see you in this house again, my father barked. Mama broke down in tears, not because she still wanted him, but because it hurt to realize that after 26 years of marriage, this was all she was worth. 2 bags. 2 bags to represent the woman who had cooked, cleaned, endured, and raised 4 children. 2 bags for her youth, her silence, her sacrifices. As she knelt to zip the bags closed, holding back her tears, my father called out again. John, he shouted, follow her. Go with her. You're a liability anyway. Mama turned sharply, stunned. He pointed at our 12-year-old brother like he was handing over a package. Take him, go! I rushed to follow them, my heart boiling with anger. But he stepped in front of the door and pointed at me. If you step 1 foot outside this house, you'll regret it. I froze. I hated him in that moment. Not just for what he was doing, but for the way he did it, with no remorse. Mama, holding John's hand, walked down that road with 2 bags and no place to go. She went, as always, to his elder sister, Auntie Clara, but even there she found no help. I can't keep doing this, Auntie Clara said, barely looking up. You know your husband. He wants respect. That's all he's ever asked for. And it's not too much. Mama left quietly. That evening she called me. I'm okay, she said, voice soft but trying to be strong. I'm staying with one of my sister's friends for now. Don't worry about me. I just want to face my exams. Just 1 more week and I'll be done. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just whispered, I love you, Mama. That weekend, my mother's younger sister, Auntie Lolo, came to Ibadan. She stormed into our compound like a storm. You treated my sister like nothing for 26 years. You humiliated her. This is not acceptable. My father stood up, calm at first. Then, with cold arrogance, he snapped, Tell your people to prepare. I'll be coming to collect my dowry. I can't tolerate her excesses anymore. Auntie Lolo froze for a second, then burst into laughter. Which dowry? She fired back. You never even paid it, remember? For the first time, my father had no words. He just stood there, speechless. Then, bang. He slammed the door in her face. 2 weeks later, he paid the dowry of his longtime mistress, the woman he'd been with for years, the one who already had 2 children for him, ages 14 and 10, a relationship we'd all known about, but Mama never fought. She had stopped caring long ago. But for me, that was the day I lost every ounce of respect I had left for the man I once called father. So it turned out, after everything, that Mama was never legally or traditionally married to my father. No dowry, no registry, no ceremony, nothing. Just 26 years of servitude wrapped in a yes, sir. It broke her, but she tried to hide it, to hold herself up in front of us. But I saw the way her shoulders slumped when she thought no one was looking. And I began to question everything. Are adults really who they say they are? Is love truly enough? What happens when everything you believed in turns out to be a lie? Mama stayed at her sister's friend's house even after her nursing assistant's exams. Shaw has a certificate now, so she was trying to find her footings, looking for a place to work, somewhere to belong again. She applied to a care home and a special needs school. 2 interviews, 2 small lights at the end of a very long tunnel. Anna kept checking in, sending money, suggesting they find a better place for Mama to stay. But Mama said no. Let me get a job first, she told her. If I get something, then I can find a place closer to work, one step at a time. Then, one quiet morning, Anna called. Mummy, how are you? Yes, my daughter. I am fine. Anna's voice cracked. I'm pregnant, she said. There was no joy in her tone, just exhaustion. Mummy, the twins are just 15 months old. I can't handle morning sickness. I can't do this again. It's too soon. Mama listened gently. She tried to encourage her, but Anna was breaking. I need you here. I can't cope, Mummy. I can't. That changed everything. Mama began to consider it. But there was one complication. John. His condition had worsened. The outbursts were more frequent. He barely spoke anymore. And after everything that happened in the house, he had become emotionally withdrawn, clingy, paranoid, deeply anxious. I can't leave him, Mama said. You know I can't. Anna discussed it with her husband, and they decided if Mama had to come, John would come too. But Scotland's immigration system wasn't built for that kind of compassion. The visa was rejected. Twice. They tried again, this time with an immigration lawyer. He studied the case and suggested a long shot. Adoption sponsorship under kinship humanitarian grounds. It was bold, risky, but they went ahead, and it worked. 2 months later, visas were issued. Not for visiting, not temporary, for relocation. The day Mama and John flew back to Scotland, I stood at the airport watching their figures disappear into the departure gates. John held her hand tightly. Mama turned, gave me a big hug, and smiled. It wasn't a sad smile. It was the smile of a woman who had finally chosen herself. A woman who had been silenced for 26 years. Anna was overjoyed when Mama arrived. It was everything she needed, and more. Mama settled in quickly. Mr. Drew kept coming around almost every other day. At first, it was casual, friendly chats, cups of tea, short walks. But soon, something deeper began to grow between them. What started as soft conversations turned into steady companionship. They became inseparable. But the real surprise? Drew's bond with John. He asked questions and made suggestions. He didn't talk at John. He talked with him. He didn't force hugs or loud jokes. He listened. They found a nearby special school that catered to John's needs. Gentle routines, emotional regulation, art therapy. It wasn't long before John began sleeping over at Drew's house some weekends. It wasn't even something they announced. It just happened. Like the way plants lean toward the sun. He began taking John to therapy twice a week, sat through each session quietly, and even joined in when the therapist suggested family exercises. One day, John returned from a session, looked at him, and said softly, "Thank you, Drew. He now can make sentences, not just picking words, And I almost cried when my mom told me. Mama? She smiled more, wore her hair like a teenager. One evening, Anna called me. Girl, I don't understand. Oh, she said. Her voice was sharp with worry. Understand what? I asked. This Drew and Mummy thing. I feel like I should be happy for her, but it's awkward. I chuckled and shook my head. Anna, let this woman find love, please. I know, she whispered. But I don't know how to process it. And so I told her. Everything. What Mama had endured, what she had survived, what she had lost, and what she still carried, even now. I told her how Mama once asked me, do you think it's too late for someone like me? And how I said, no, Mama, I think it's finally your turn. And our father, he has moved on with who he wants. Like Mom was never part of his life, Anna went quiet for a while. Then she whispered, almost like she was making a vow to herself, okay, she deserves it. I'll help her. Later that week, Anna approached Mama while they were folding baby clothes. She sat beside her on the bed and said gently, Mummy, do you like Mr. Drew? Mama froze, her hand still clutching a baby sock. Then she broke into tears. Through trembling lips, she whispered, he asked me to marry him, but I said no. Anna reached for her, held her tightly. Do you like him, Mummy? Mama nodded slowly. I love the way he talks to me, she said. I love how he respects me, how he talks about my son like he matters, how he looks at me like I'm not a mistake, like I still have value. She wiped her eyes and laughed through her tears. We went to his wife's grave last week. He asked me to come with him, and as he laid flowers, I listened to him talk to her by thanking her for their years together and telling her he'd found someone else, me. He's a good man, but I'm broken. I'm too damaged to be anyone's wife. Anna held her even tighter. You are not broken, Mummy. You're healing, and healing people still deserve love. You taught us to pray. You prayed through storms. You gave everything to us, and now someone wants to give to you, to love you not because you're useful, but just because you are you. Let him. Mama closed her eyes. She didn't say anything more that night, but something shifted in the room, in her, and a week later she said yes. Immediately, Mama accepted Drew. Something in him lit up. He didn't just want to live with her, he wanted to do it right. I want to marry you properly, he said, eyes wet with emotion. Let me be the first man to honor you. It felt surreal hearing those words. Stranger still. They came from a man whose father was Nigerian. Mr. Drew was born and raised in the UK, yes, but he knew his roots. He remembered his father's stories. He carried the culture like a hidden map in his heart. So he made the calls, found the right people, reconnected with his Nigerian family. And then he came to pay Mama's bride price. He didn't come alone. He flew into Nigeria with Liam, Anna's husband, and two close friends. It wasn't a lavish ceremony, no camera crews, no fancy halls, no crowd. But it was sacred. It was real. A quiet courtyard in Benin, white plastic chairs beneath a rented canopy, hot sun, cool breeze, aunties in soft lace. And Mama, in burnt orange and gold. Her smile outshone everything else she wore. And me? I sneaked out of school. Didn't tell anyone I was coming. But I had to be there. I had to see it with my own eyes. The woman who once knelt at the feet of a man who called her useless, now standing tall, honored, cherished, loved. Drew couldn't take his eyes off her. He held her hand like she was a miracle. And to him, she probably was. When he bent to whisper something in her ear, she laughed. Not the laugh of a tired woman, but the laugh of a woman who had been found, who had finally come home, to herself. And then, my father saw it. I don't know how he found out. Maybe someone told him. Maybe he came to mock. Or maybe, just maybe, curiosity got the better of him. But he came, he didn't enter. He just stood across the road behind a parked kidnapep, watching. He saw the music, he saw the joy, he saw the man, and he saw her. The woman he thought no one else would want. The one he silenced, shamed, and pushed aside. The woman who gave him 26 years and walked away with only 2 bags. Now she was dancing, radiant, crowned. He didn't shout, didn't speak, didn't cause a scene. He just stood there, frozen, like a man who had finally realized the prisoner he once kept had grown wings and flown. Mama is married now, not just in heart, but in name, in law, and in dignity. John is thriving. Drew adopted him legally. He now calls him Dad. And the boy who once couldn't string a sentence now recites bedtime prayers with full stops. Me, I'm in university now. And every time I look at my mother, I remind myself, healing is not just possible. It's holy. It's never too late to choose joy. And love, the real kind, always finds its way home. Then this morning, my father called me. He asked just one question. How is your mother? And I didn't know what to say, because how do you answer a man who buried a woman alive, only to realize she bloomed without him? As I write this, the call is still active. The screen is still blinking. He's still waiting for my reply. Tell me, what should I say? Drop it in the comments.
If you love this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and turn on your notifications. Afriwis brings you weekly stories twice as juicy. And yes, most of our stories are inspired by real life, with all names withheld to protect privacy. These stories are not just entertainment. You'll learn something valuable in each one. For collaborations or to share your own story, kindly reach out to us. Thank you for being here. See you next time on Afriwis.